Hi guys, there's a new model and a little bit of an experiment with my dioramas because for Christmas I got a static grass applicator. So I wanted to just do a really simple go of that, but the model is Airfix's M36 or 90mm gun carriage tank destroyer. It was nicknamed the Jackson, I think, in the 50s. They never called it the Jackson in the Second World War, but it was used at the end of the war. It replaced the M10 and the M18 tank destroyers. But essentially, it's a Sherman with a different turret with a bigger gun. So yeah, I got the War World Scenics, the micro version of their static grass applicator for Christmas, and it came in a nice pack with some glue. You had to get a battery, but it came in a nice pack with some glue and a few of the different grasses that you can use. So I'd never used one before. I've never seen one used before. So before I even started on the model, I just wanted to have a go at that. So Luke at the Geek Gaming Scenics, I watched his video, and also the War World Scenics guys have got videos on YouTube on how to use these things. I'd seen them used here and there in videos which I was watching primarily for the tank build, but yeah, just add something else really to the dioramas that I'm doing. Change of direction really, so I don't get stuck doing the same thing. Essentially, you know, like I say, go and look at their videos, but essentially you have to do multiple applications, and they say not to use PVA glue. The guys at WWS use their plastic based glue because it doesn't shrink or move, but yeah, I did use their glue because it comes as part of the kit. And then what I found was it just distributes quite quickly, and you have to fill the hopper completely, especially on the micro one. The Pro one, which is I think £50 or £60 more, has a bigger hopper, but the small one that I've got, I kept running out of grass, and you do have to fill it. So they say that you don't have to paint the base that it's on, because it fully covers it. But I had this old bit of board that I'd done some plaster on in the past. I think I had North African, like a German tank on it, and it had just fallen into my spares box because I'd got bored of it. So I just painted it over with yellow ochre acrylic paint, then the glue, and yeah, I did applications of spring grass, followed by a little bit of sawdust just to break up the grass a little bit. It's very fine sawdust, and you could have put any kind of stuff in there: coffee grounds, tea, you know, the contents of tea bags, anything granular, just to like break up, just so it doesn't seem just like a fuzz of fabric. So it has other kind of textures in there. And then all I didn't have is the War World Scenics spray glue that you spray over to do a second application. So I just used trusty hairspray to do an application of slightly darker grass, and then there's the brown dead grass as well. I did a third spray with the brown dead grass over the top, and I did rough it up a little bit with my fingertips, just in between application 2 and 3. So first time I've ever used it, guys. If you've got any advice, feel free to send it through, post a comment. But it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. It didn't stand up as straight as I thought it would. But there was obviously a gap between the surface of the grass and the base of the diorama. So there was some lift there, which looked realistic in the end. But I then just let it all dry, and then I scraped off 2 kind of tyre tracks, really, as just to give it interest. Scraped it back to the yellow ochre acrylic paint, and sat the paint on them two tracks. So did the majority of the build before I started filming. Airfix build, so really lovely. The only problem I had was fitting the turret to the hull. Strangely, the turret ring comes with 2 teeth on it, so you could sit it in and do a half turn as you would with Tamiya tanks. The instructions ask you to cut the existing ones off and to add 2 fresh ones. And I needed to ask a chap on Instagram who was doing the same build, and he sent me through some photographs and said, you know, you need to do it like this, but I still couldn't get it to fit. So I glue the turret on, as you see later on. I just couldn't seem to get it to match up, and it wasn't very precise either in the instructions where to put those teeth, those lugs, to be able to fit it together and still have a rotating turret. That was the only thing that was difficult about it, I think. The road wheels and everything was really simple. It's vinyl, stretchy vinyl tracks, which you have to use super glue on. You can't use the normal modeller's glue on them. So I wanted to use some of the storage that comes. There's a lot of stuff on the sprues, guys, that isn't in the instructions. There's kind of a lot of surplus parts, alternative parts, like loads. Like I had 2 full sprues, I think, at the end of the build. So some of it you can put together. It's ammunition boxes and petrol cans and things like that. But I wanted to use a coffee stirrer as well. As often as them old Shermans, you know, from the fender to the fender at the front there, and then they can use it as like a storage space on the sloped armour. And advice, I'd listen to advice, guys. Advice had been posted under previous videos. You know, you should start priming your models. So I'd got some plain grey primer, and I think this was the first one that I completely primed with a rattle cam. And the interior is like a cream, like an off-white, and that was a rattle can as well. So up until the point you see it now, where I'll get the brush and the acrylics out to paint the tracks. All the work I'd done on it was with rattle cans. I'd used the off-white spray can before in an interior of a turret, and I just liked the effect of that. And I think most tank interiors are white to help bounce light around. Some pictures online show the M36 with an olive green interior and black seats. But I presume that's because it's so open, so it won't be seen from above by planes and whatnot. But I'd already gone with the white. quite a time-consuming model actually. I enjoyed it, but there was lots of different elements to it. Airfix, I think they're pretty good at making a build interesting and not simple. So yeah, and this in the UK, this was on special offer. I think it was at E-Models. I think it was reduced from about £30 to 24, 23 or £24, and I just wanted to try something different, so I've had to move away from the cheap ones. I've done all the cheap ones now, Tamiya and Zvezda ones. So yeah, and then brush painting over the primer. It was good advice because the paint kind of went on a bit easier. I could dilute it a little bit. The adhesion was really good, and yeah, the only thing is it's a bit boring, isn't it, when you're doing just olive green British and American tanks in the Second World War. There's a scheme in the model instruction for an American one, Battle of the Bulge or something, and then for a French one, post-war, and the French used these in Indochina, in Vietnam. So that would have been interesting. Maybe French tanks in Vietnam were camouflaged. I didn't really look into that. I just used the American decals. And the reason for that was I bought some Normandy figures, and I was going to originally do some figures with the with this model, but in the end I just did it on that small grassy diorama that you saw at the beginning. There wasn't a lot of room to use figures. Because of the way the running gear, the road wheels and the sprocket of the Sherman tanks wheels are so, I won't say complex, but it's hard to get stretchy vinyl tracks around them, I find, after you've either heated or glued the tracks, because there's quite a stretch needed to get them on. So I tried to do it whilst they were around the idler wheel and the road wheels, and it's tough. It is tough, really. It was 4 nipples, so to speak, pushed through 4 holes, but there was a little bit of tiny bit of flash of the rubber, the vinyl, and it just made it really hard to marry up the 4. Yeah, so don't know what you guys think. If anybody's built this model, it seems quite a common one. It's always available on the different websites, and I don't know if you had any issues with the turret or the tracks, but I've been doing this for long enough now that I think it's the same formula basically every time, and if you have a problem with it, I tend to think that it's not me, it's not my fault, it's the model's fault. I've had enough practice by now, but anyway, so do some decals. Decals are really simple on it, and got to some oil paint, pin washing, to pull out some of the nice details that are on the body. There is some brilliant details on the body. It's a really complicated hull and turret, and it was nice to do some dry brushing and to do some chipping and some pin wash on it as well. So obviously just dilute it with your terps, and I think I used maybe 10% maybe 5% leaf green, 5% burnt sienna, and 5% black, lamp black, or maybe a bit less lamp black, and then the rest 85% terps. So it is quite diluted. And then with your terps on the brush, going back over it, bits where it's a little bit garish and standing out too much, but yeah, the plan was to do some of the slate grey Vallejo pigments as well at the end, just to dampen it all down and make it look like it had been going down a dusty road. So there's always layers to these things. You know, you don't have to get it perfect the first time you do it. You don't have to get any of the parts of the process perfect, really. As long as you've not got glue all over the surface of the model, everything can be covered up with the different variables, the different parts of the weathering process, with mud or oil paint, or I'll often skip something or leave something out or do something badly on a model, but you just know in the back of your mind that you're easily going to cover it with some of the detail later on anyway. So I really liked the front of this tank. It's just got the American star or the Allied star and the bridge rating for the weight of the tank, and then I've put that coffee stirrer piece of balsa wood across, just with PVA glue, and I'm going to just paint up some bits of track, a couple of wheels, and add it to the front just to give a bit more interest. These tanks came in the winter of 1944, so you could do something on a snowy diorama with this tank. You could do a German street scene or a French street scene. There's lots of diorama options really with this, and there's obviously lots of American soldier figures kits that you can find as well. So it's quite versatile. So yeah, the Vallejo pigments, dust and dirt effects, I bought off Amazon. I've used a lot of the browns and the sandy colours, but I've not really used much of this slate grey, and I think it's just a dust effect, just like an aging kind of effect. And it worked well really. It just I suppose with anything like this you have to be careful you don't overdo it. But you can always, if you do overdo it dry, I'm using it dry now with a dry brush, you can always rinse it off with a bit of water on a paintbrush if you think you've done too much, and then equally if you use it on wet you can brush it off afterwards. You see that I can I gave up trying to fit the turret completely and just stuck it on. But this is off camera. I had tried for maybe 20 minutes to try and line up the grooves and make something of it, but it just wasn't happening at all. A bit disappointing the kit didn't have any shells for that area behind at the back of the turret, where the shells for the gun would go. It didn't come with anything for that, so I'm sure there is an aftermarket kit you can buy with little brass shells in it. And also it's worth noting that it came with some photo etch stuff. The guards over the lights on the front of the tank and a few other little bits, and I didn't use any of it because you get duplicated stuff on the sprue, and I just stuck with the original plastic stuff. That was only because I had no super glue. I had COVID while I was doing this, so I couldn't go out to the shop and get some super glue. So I was kind of operating with what I had in the room at the time. So what I did have was some electrical wire, just plastic coated wire, and I wrapped that up to make a little ball of rope. And that's joined the storage on the front of the tank as well. No figures come with this tank, but I have got a figure that came with my Italeri Sherman. It's just one man standing with a pair of binoculars in his hand, which was perfect for this. And I stood him in the turret, straddling one of the seats. It didn't feel like it was built for figures. The turret is kind of like all on different levels, and if I had more figures, I don't know how I would have fit them all in. It would have had to have been figures that were designed specifically for this tank, because there's only certain areas where they can stand. And then there's this, as you can see, there's a little shelf on the back there for petrol cans, jerry cans. So you see these figures on the on my work surface there, that I was building at the time and painting at the time. It makes it easier when you're painting figures for a diorama, because when something on the tank is drying, you can skip between the two different things. But I'm not going to use them. I'm going to save them up, buy another American tank, and then do something Normandy based, perhaps. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed building this one. I don't like Shermans. They're just a bit small and boring to me. So I don't think I'll build anything else that's based on the M4 Sherman chassis. But I liked this one just because it had an open turret and a bit of interest on the inside, a bit of different equipment that you can see is visible on the inside, and it suits the little grassy diorama that I wanted to do with it. So let me know what you think, guys, and thanks for the advice about the priming. I think that was a success, and still not airbrushing yet though, guys, but yeah, that made it easier. Hope everybody's staying well, and thanks for watching.